Welcome to today when we talk about miscarriages. And I'm going to talk about miscarriages throughout November. And why I want to do that is, first of all, because it marks the 5-year anniversary of my fifth and last miscarriage. On the 19th of November in 2019, I had my fifth miscarriage, and it feels like I want to talk about it because we don't talk about it enough. So I want to dedicate November, the next couple of weeks, to this topic. Today we talk about, or I'm sharing my story, and over the next couple of weeks, I will share how it was for my relationship, what we went through, how we got out of it, how it was with other people like friends, family, co-workers, but mainly with myself. How did I feel? How did I walk through the grief, through the disappointment, through the shame, through the guilt? And I will share other stories from other women that I was talking to. And that brings me to the next point, because when I had this idea, I thought, is anyone interested in it? Do people want to talk about it? Do women who experience it, and also men, want to talk about this topic? Is it something we should talk more about? Are we ready to understand and show compassion and be there for people who go through it, who go through the grief, or not? Or is it just something that we want to push away? Because I know I did. I tried to push it away and it hit me hard when it came back. But more to that a bit later. The interesting thing is when I talk to my network and also when I talk to clients, and I told them about this idea to dedicate November to miscarriages, it turned out that there are more women out there who had one miscarriage or even more miscarriages than I was aware. And that particularly hit me with my clients who I was working with for weeks or months even. And they didn't share it even when we had the consultation and when we walked through the whole process of how does your life look right now. It didn't came up. So it took me by surprise. And maybe that also shows that let's talk about it. And who doesn't want to listen or isn't interested, fine by me. Don't watch this. Do something else. Or maybe you know someone and you think this is something for someone who should listen to it, then please share it. So like I said, when I had this idea, I didn't know if anyone would be interested, if they would understand, if anyone would come and say, share their story maybe. But we'll see. This is the first one. This is the first session. So we'll see what's going to happen. And I will keep you posted at the end of November. What happened, what didn't happen. And I want to start with a story an experience that I had with a friend of mine. It was in 2017. At the time, I was living in England, and I went to Germany to visit family and friends. And I had a catch up with her, and we talked about what was going on, how did life go, and I knew that she was planning on having a family, so they were trying. And she didn't say anything. We talked about the topic for maybe half an hour. And I just noticed that something was off. There was something that she didn't say, that she held back. So I asked her, is there something, what's going on? And then she said that she had a miscarriage. And then she shared her fears, how overwhelming it was, how painful it was. And she also shared that even though that happened half a year earlier, she didn't talk to anyone. Her and her husband were the only people, and of course the doctors, who knew about what was happening, who knew about what they went through, who knew about the pain. And I was surprised. I was also a little bit like offended, to be honest, because I asked her, well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me? And she said, I thought you wouldn't understand, and I thought you wouldn't want to hear. And doctors told her that. And we know this, it's a natural selection. Miscarriages often happen because the fetus wasn't able to survive, and it happens. So she tried to rationalize it in her brain to make sense of it. Like, this is what's happening, no big deal. That's what doctors tried to convey to her. And that's how she then carried that into her life and didn't deal with the grief, didn't deal with the pain. And that brings me to my story where I didn't share. I shared my first miscarriage because that was a big surprise to me. It was a big surprise because I didn't know, apart from that one friend, anyone in my family or friends who had a miscarriage. So that happened to me then. I was like, what, why is this happening to me? Because it's not a normal thing. It's not happened very often. But then going onto Google search, I found so many forums, websites, posts, blogs where women and men shared their story of loss, of losing a baby, of having a miscarriage, what they went through. And I was so surprised because I guess if it doesn't happen to you, why would you look it up? Why would you talk about it? And that's a normal human behavior. So, but to me, it took me by surprise. On the one hand, I was happy to find other people who probably knew and understood what I was going through. On the other hand, it just sucked me into this hole, this black hole, where it was so much pain, there was so much grief, there was so much shame, so much guilt. And I thought it felt like I was suffocating. Because for me, I asked the doctor to give me a sick notice, so I stayed at home. And it felt like I was crying every day for 2 weeks. And I wanted to move forward. I didn't want to stay in that hole. And I felt by reading all of these blogs and being on these forums, it didn't allow me to move forward. So I stopped doing that. And then I got pregnant again. And I had my second miscarriage. And that continued till I had my fourth miscarriage. But at the time when I found out that I was pregnant with my fourth baby, I got to a point because what I did is I pushed the second and third miscarriage away. It was just like, this is not happening. This is not happening. It can't be. No, pushed it away. Didn't let any pain, any grief, any emotions through. Just pushed it away. And when I found out I was pregnant again with my fourth baby, I thought, fuck this. Excuse my French. I poured myself, I think it was a triple Coke rum, cigarettes. I downed it. I poured myself another one. I was just like, it doesn't matter. I don't need to look after myself. I don't need to take care of myself because I'm going to lose it again. I felt so much anger, so much desperation that I didn't care about my baby. I didn't care about me. It felt like, nah, it doesn't matter if I destroy myself or if I look after myself. It doesn't matter. My body isn't capable. My body is useless. So I start shaming myself. I start shaming my body. And I felt a lot of body shame, particularly at the time. And then my partner came home and he saw me and he just threw my drink away, threw my cigarettes away. I said, no, you're not doing this. And I thought, but what's the point? I'm going to lose it anyway. And I did. I did lose it. And at the time, I tried to push it away again because this isn't happening. Why would this happening 4 times in a row? I tried to push it away and I didn't let anything apart from anger through. And I remember I was at the GP at the time, and of course they have the records, and he said, "So how are you?" And I said, "I'm fine. I'm okay. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. Life is peachy." And he didn't go into details or he didn't ask me anything more. That was it. That was the end of the topic. And I was cycling home. It was like a 30-minute cycle route back to my house. And I was on this narrow road and this car was coming and it was really narrow. And this car, I had the feeling they want to push me off the road. And I stopped and I could feel my body shaking. I could feel my heartbeat. It was very fast, very strong, and my hands were shaking. I was like, oh my God. And then it was like literally like a brick hitting my head. It's like, you lost 4 children. And just this thought, this letting, allowing myself to think that, all the emotions, the pain, it just came flushing over me, and I was crying for the rest of my cycling home. And at home, I thought, what do I do with it? And what I did is I thought, let's write everything down, get it out of my head. So I started writing, and when it came to these words like I lost 4 of my children, I couldn't write it. I I couldn't. It didn't happen. I couldn't. It was like a blockage. My thought, my brain was thinking it, but my hand couldn't convey it into words on the paper. So I continued writing other stuff. And eventually, after probably 15, 20 minutes, I wrote it. And I was crying. I sat there on the floor crying and crying and just let it happen. Afterwards, I felt better in some way. On the other hand, I felt so filled and flushed with grief, with pain, with I can't understand, with overwhelm, with so many emotions that I didn't even know that I had. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I just went along and lived life and continued. And eventually I became pregnant again. And when I saw the result, I was, oh my God, it can't be. It can't be. It can't happen a fifth time. It's just not going to happen. This is going to be it because it's not normal to go through this 5 times. So the fifth time, 5 times the charm, as they say, this is going to happen. This is where you will carry the baby to full term, where you will deliver, where you will hold your baby in your arms. And it was just, I think, 2 weeks before moving to China, where I am now. And I thought, yeah, okay, let's have a China baby. So we moved to China and there was no support system. I didn't know anyone. I couldn't speak the language. There weren't many people who spoke English or German. So I was quite isolated. We still lived in a hotel. I started my new job, so everything was new, everything was different. And one evening, I noticed bleeding. And I said to my partner, I think we should go to the hospital. So we did. It was in the middle of the night. We went to the hospital and we arrived at the hospital with so many nurses around us who didn't speak English. I still didn't speak any Chinese, so it was weird. And they didn't believe that I was pregnant because they did an internal scan and they couldn't find the fetus. And I said, yes, because I lost it. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure you were pregnant? And I thought, what the hell? Why are you doing this to me? And half an hour later, when the blood results came back, they came in smiling, saying, "Oh, you were actually pregnant. Yeah, we can see it now in your blood." And I thought, I'm in the wrong movie here. This isn't happening. So that wasn't a supportive experience, let's say it. And then I came home or to the hotel, and there I was. My partner and I, we knew about it. And I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I didn't want to be the failure that wasn't able to stay pregnant, to deliver a baby, to have a child. Because that's what I felt. Family, friends around me, they had babies, and I wasn't able. I wasn't capable. My body wasn't able. I was a failure. I felt the body shame that I felt before it got to an extreme. I blamed my body. I told my body how incapable my body is, how useless, how worthless. And I went down this spiral, this black hole, and I didn't talk to anyone because I felt that there's no one around. I didn't want to call my friends and tell them. Eventually, of course, we talked and they knew I was pregnant because I was almost 12 weeks pregnant before when we left. And so they knew. Then I had to tell them. And let's say I didn't feel understood or supported, or it was a lot of, yeah, this happens, it's not your fault. You will get over it. You can try again. You can adopt. So all of these solutions they throw onto me. At the time, I didn't want solutions. I just wanted to be listened to. And I think that's where we often lack the listening. And it also threw us, my partner and I, into a sphere where I could see that he wasn't grieving the way I expected him to grieve. So I started resenting him. So the relationship got worse. I distanced myself. I stayed in my little hole. And what happened 6 months later, when I was in that hole and I so desperately wanted to move forward, again, I tried to push it away. Something didn't let me push it away. Something just kept me in there. And what I felt like was a relief, a release, was the thought, the permission I gave myself to feel the pain, to grieve my babies till the end of my life. That it is okay to feel the pain, that it is okay for me to cry, that it is okay for me to look at other pregnant women and hate them right now. It's okay for other babies, for me to look at other babies and hate those right now. It's okay. It's okay to have all of these self-destructing, other people destructing thoughts of the shame, of the guilt, of the grief. It's okay. Right now, it's okay to have all of that. And by allowing myself to feel that way, to be open to with myself about it, allowed me to move forward, to heal from my grief. It took me a while. Don't get me wrong. It took me a while. And even now, it comes back and it's okay. Just the allowance that this is going to be painful, sometimes more, sometimes less, till the end of my life. And it's okay. That's what changed for me to deal with the grief, to go through the grief, to be angry, to be desperate, to try to try to say, I do this when you give me that. Because it doesn't happen, does it? That's not how life works. And I want to end this episode today with just you knowing that you're not alone. I'm here for you. If you want to talk, reach out to me. I'm happy to listen. And if you know someone who's going through it, who has gone through it, and who needs someone to listen, I'm here for you. You don't have to go through this by yourself. And I promise I won't try to help you, convince you to move forward. I will just listen, because I believe that's sometimes all we need. We don't need someone to solve our problems.